Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the fifth episode of Discover Your Worth Informational Sessions. And the topic of today's session is 21st Century Workplaces and its Evolving Talent Needs, hosted by Habib University and joined by our wonderful and esteemed panelists who we will be introducing shortly. My name is 𝐋𝐈𝐕𝐄 and I am Assistant Director and Head of Marketing and Communications at Habib University. And my co-host today is, I would say, a superstar, Faranaaz Khan. She is a computer science major from our class of 2022. She is an HU Tops scholar studying at 100% scholarship at Habib University. She is also the recipient of Golden Key by Dollins for automating call center operations using robotic process automation. And with this Golden Key, she has now secured her job even before she has graduated. So she can readily start working at Dollins after graduation without any application process. So even I would like to welcome you, Farah, to join us as a co-host.
Thank you so much, Aqsa, for introducing me. I'm very honored and privileged to be co-hosting for such an important and insightful conversation with you and getting to introduce such an esteemed an intellectual panel of leaders, which we will now be introducing. So our first panelist is Mr. Umar Ehsan Khan, who's currently the CEO of Dollins. Mr. Umar Ehsan is an accomplished and regionally experienced executive, seasoned in pivotal hands-on leadership roles within major national and multinational enterprises. He has overall 30 years of experience with more than 10 years in executive level positions in complex transformational environments. As the CEO of Dollins, he has committed himself to introducing more advanced technology and innovative home appliances that create greater convenience for consumers in Pakistan and abroad. Welcome, Mr. Umar. Next, we have Mr. Waqarul Islam, who, having worked for over 27 years in world-renowned multinationals in Pakistan, he is currently part of Jaffer Group as a director and is heading Jaffer Business Systems. He is also involved in group affairs on the board. Mr. Waqarul Islam is an astute businessman, a high achiever, and a marketer par excellence. He is also an inspirational leader who has led his team successfully and grown the businesses he was involved in. He is also known for his out-of-the-box approaches and strategic initiatives. He has always been a top global talent in every multinational he was associated with. Besides his association with Jaffer Group, he is also serving as the president and director at Touchpoint Private Limited, TiE Karachi, Tech Consulting, Foripay, and many more. He is also a founder of 𝐒𝐏𝐲𝐵, a technical startup providing financial management solutions. He is a firm believer of moving forward with the passion to grow by achieving excellence through innovation. Welcome, Mr. Waqar.
So our third panelist is Mr. Ahmed Ayoub. He's co-founder Airlift Technologies. Mr. Ahmed Ayoub has over 20 years of experience in general management, cost and profitability management, software project management, and software development. He is the co-founder of Airlift Technologies, a highly successful company offering 30-minute delivery of all household essentials. With a strong software engineering background, he has led work as an engineer, a project manager, a process owner, and a head of operations group. His core areas of interest are employee motivation, delivering high-value results with millennials, engagement-centric HR policies, and empathy research, with this main focus being team building, leadership, and strategy. Welcome, Mr. Ahmed Ayoub.
Thank you very much.
And our fourth panelist is again our superstar. Of course, all the esteemed panelists are superstars, but Areej, Areej being the Habib University student, even more proud of her. Areej is a product owner at SadaPay, a fintech startup in Pakistan. As an engineering alumna of Habib University's batch of 2020, she graduated with Best Capstone Award, Outstanding Social Innovation Award, and Outstanding Social Entrepreneurship Award. She has completed her Masters in Prosperity, Innovation and Entrepreneurship from University College London, UCL, on a fully funded scholarship. She was also a Commonwealth Scholar and recipient of the Diana Award 2019 for Young Social Innovators. Previously, she co-founded 𝐾𝐲𝐬𝐬 in 2017, a social startup working towards deaf inclusion in Pakistan through sign language interpretation and literacy. She's always been interested in projects that solve problems through technology. Her journey with entrepreneurship and social innovation started at Harvard University in 2016. Additionally, she was the 2018 cohort of Silicon Valley Innovation Academy, an international honors program at Stanford University. Her goal is to bring change in her community through sparking civic innovation with intelligent technology. I welcome all of you. Welcome, 𝐒𝐨𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐬, and we are so happy for all of you to be here with us discussing the most important topic. So actually, admissions are currently open at Habib University for all 6 of our innovative programs, and I'm excited to have myself, Farah, and our panelists explain a bit more about how the workplaces have evolved and what role is Habib University playing to fulfill today's talent needs. So, yes, Farah.
Yes, thank you. So, from the introduction of new technology and tools to the rising trend of remote working, workplaces today have adapted in a number of ways to meet the needs and requirements of the constantly changing world, as you all know. With this change in how workplaces execute, the skills demanded from an employee have also evolved over time, given the current situation of the world. So in order to produce graduates with these evolving talent needs, academia and other advising facilities also have to be refined in order to prepare students to adapt more efficiently in workplaces today. Habib University, with its unique intellect, provides a liberal arts education that is comparable to any top liberal arts university in the world, teaching how to perceive the world in broader and more intellectual ways. In addition to liberal arts education, through its many unique offerings, such as Office of Career Services, Industry Advisory Board, global faculty, smaller classrooms, interdisciplinarity, global exposure, and above all, its unmatched generosity in enabling students financially. I'm an example of this myself. Habib University prides itself for providing world-class education and graduates fit for the employment needs of today and tomorrow.
So, Waqar Saab, Jaffa Business Systems is a firm believer of young talent. At the very center of JBS vision lies excellence, growth, and innovation. Over the last few years, we've also seen how JBS has taken an impact in the entrepreneurial sector as well. So what are the factors that have inspired this major change in JBS strategy, and as a result, what employment needs have emerged over the last few years?
So thank you, 𝐾𝐲𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿ook, I think every CEO or every management person goes through various challenges in his tenure as a senior executive or as someone who is in a decision-making position. Being in the tech industry and having worked in this industry for decades, the biggest challenge that, in my view, a CEO faces these days is how to build an organization for 2030. Because I cannot be building an organization in 2022, which may have been relevant to the 90s and 2000, but would not stay relevant in terms of not just the portfolio, but also in terms of the people strategy, which was more relevant in, say, 90s or 2000. So hence, extremely important for us as JBS, but also otherwise as leaders, that we keep in mind the demand, the thinking process, the evolution that has happened in the workforce over the years. Now, the other change that has happened in the last few decades, and I personally find it very fascinating, is the way, the baby bloomers, which are people from my generation, are different to the millennials. And interestingly, even with a difference of 10 to 15 years, the Gen Z is completely different to millennials, and even millennials struggle to relate to them because these kids are born with gadgets in their hand and they think differently, they act differently, they have a different process flow. So when you are designing a workplace, your people strategy must match with the needs of the millennials and Gen Z, and not with that of baby boomers, which means we need to divorce ourselves from the way we have been brought up in a work environment, if you like, right? And that I find it very fascinating, because in any executive position, the most fascinating piece is to work with people and take them to the next level. And this is and no better challenge actually than what it has posed in the last, say, 5 to 7 years, or possibly 10 years. And COVID, if anything, has accentuated the need for us to look forward rather than backward. So with that in mind, what we are trying to do in JBS and with some of the other allied companies is to bring a cultural shift from what we call bottom up, which means we bring in enough young talent in the company that they are able to disrupt a culture which has been created over decades by the bloomers and bring in a new culture. And from them, we evolve the future leaders of this organization who will be well attuned to taking the Gen Zs and the millennials along. So it is interesting how the thought process from an executive decision-making viewpoint has evolved and dramatically changed, actually, not just evolved, in terms of keeping your needs or keeping your culture in tune with the changing realities of millennials and Gen Z. So yeah, so hence, at JBS, we are trying to bring in the lot of youth in the company and giving them a lot of freedom and empowerment so that they learn to swim, they learn to float, and they learn to struggle. And of course, if they face any hiccups, then the senior people go and assist them or coach them, but giving them the freedom and enablement so that they maximize or realize their potential to the best. So yeah, that's more or less the thought process behind what we are trying to do, and I hope it makes sense.
Right, it absolutely does. And I was having this conversation with one of our graduates, and I asked him what according to you should be a quality of a perfect boss or a CEO for that matter. And the response was, mentoring is fine, he or she should mentor us, but he should definitely let us make all the mistakes that we can make under the sun, and only then we'll be able to progress further. So the culture that you have just explained very nicely definitely allows for that freedom to make mistakes. Thank you, Mr. Waqar. Yes, Paranaz.
Mr. Ayub, Airlift is a huge example of adapting to the drastic market changes posed by COVID-19. How are you able to respond to these changes so quickly in such an unforeseen situation? And what was the regrouping? How did it impact your employment strategy and the workplace environment?
Thank you, Farah. As Prakash earlier said, the way management is done is drastically changing. If you just search for images from offices of Google, you don't see too many small cabins there. There are large halls with flat tables, and everybody sit there. And there are colorful desks and walls, and workplaces defined in a completely different way. So I was reading somewhere that Samsung redesigned one office in Korea, where the printer on the floor is settled in a way that if you send a print, you have to walk across 3 different aisles to reach there, so that you interact more people along the way. So it's basically what's happening now, and that was a pre-COVID design where offices were designed that way. I think what's more important right now is to make sure that people interact, especially in COVID, post-COVID world. Interaction beyond a certain video call is extremely important. So what happened at Airlift was a very new organization anyway. So we were very technology aware first up. But what we tried to do from day one, because we had to move really fast, we were working against a very short timeline to go to the market. So we really engaged people as a team. And if you can build a certain level of teamwork where people actually think about each other, people actually support each other. Like, for example, we made some drastic changes in policies. Airlift does not have a leave count per year. There is no leave count. We let people take as many days off as they want, because we don't have the number of days that they can sit late. Is there a limit to the number of days they can sit late? So we left it people. They can work on a Sunday, they cannot work on a Monday. They can work on an Eid day, and they cannot work on another normal day. But they have to communicate that. So if you can tell people how to communicate well and leave things on them, instead of creating policies over them, they respond very well to that. So what we felt that people actually took really well. I mean, people responded to this ownership of their own policies very well. So once the bus service that we were running, it went, it had to be paused because of COVID. We had only 6 weeks before we launched the e-commerce platform. And in those 6 weeks, we worked literally day and night without any pause. And this is the team that worked almost non-stop without any weekends for a year just before that. And once they completed one product and they were kind of seeing a sigh of relief that they have produced one, there was another one they had to create. But they own everything. And I think what happened during that, first of all, we created a flat structure, flat hierarchy. We work very closely with people. So millennials or some of the more experienced people all together, I think the common architecture of human behavior is similar. So we still refer to books like LinkedIn on leadership and high output management by the CEO of Intel, and all of them are saying similar things that we practice today. That is, management is about knowing the team you work with. Our teams are changing. Their thinking is changing. They are much faster than us as managers. We need to let them think and make mistakes. If you follow Google has different processes that they follow. There is a concept of no blame retro. So if somebody makes a massive mistake, nobody takes a name in a meeting. That Mr. X did that and that's why it happened. No, it's a no blame retro. And no blame retro is actually a process where they only talk about the mistake and they only talk about the fix and the future plan. And there are no names taken. So if you can have an environment like that, people are relatively free of fear of losing their job and making mistakes. Youngsters, most of them, they want to try and fail and be corrected and then try and fail and be corrected, provided we give them this environment. Hopefully, I think we have done something like that. At the same time, in the last 3 years, and in technology, this has been a very strong 3 years of losing people because there has been a high demand. We actually totally out of a team of 100 engineers, we had 6 resignations, which I think is a great retention number. And trust me, I mean, they've been working really hard, but they've stayed put. So I think there are multiple things. You have to understand them, have to give them an environment, and you have to give them a goal to reach out to. But again, there is no silver bullet. Every organization is different. But yes, I think it all comes down to empathy, knowing people that are working with you. One last comment, because we have hired around 10, or I think now it's 12 engineers from Habib University, and we see how youngsters actually behave, and we see what new talent is coming up. We have hired electrical engineers who are doing exceptionally well in software development, and because I think we are providing them an environment that's actually helping them flourish.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ayub. As an avid user of Airlift myself, like very early on, it's very fascinating to hear about the workplace values and practices. And I've heard amazing things about Airlift myself from my peers. So thank you so much for such an insightful answer.
And now my next question is from Arish. So Arish, you are absolutely one of the most successful stories to come out of Habib University. So would you share your journey for those looking for inspiration, for someone who has made a mark in the tech startup industry, both as a founder and as an employee over the last couple of years? And how has the industry evolved for you, and how has your experience helped or prepared you for the current evolving requirements of the job market? And what skills work best for you?
Sure. Thank you so much for the question, Aqsa. So I'll start from when I joined Habib back in 2016. I was an electrical engineering major, but I always had a very deep interest towards entrepreneurship. And at that time, there were very few people, even around me, who knew what entrepreneurship is, or who had a startup, or who knew about the startup world. So it was definitely in its very, very early stages. Within Habib, I think there were a couple of startups. So 𝐃𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿 was launched when I was in my first year of Habib. And this was, I think, the second or third startup to come out of Habib. So it was still very new. Luckily, we did have an entrepreneurship society, and I became a part of it as the first thing I did after joining Habib. Following that, there were a few competitions. Then I joined the Nest.io, where my startup was incubated. And again, like within the Nest, there were a lot of workshops, a lot of founders, and you had a whole ecosystem to be a part of, which was great. But outside the Nest, there was very little talks about startups. And people, especially our parents, were very confused that what are our kids doing? Because to them, it was a very risky initiative. But over the years, so I was, as a part of Connector, I was there between 2017 to 2019. We did a couple of great initiatives, which were a huge success throughout Pakistan. One of them was the Strings concert that we did at Habib, which was Pakistan's first deaf inclusive concert. Got featured in a number of places. There was a lot of confidence being built up, and then generally our peers, my juniors, my fellows, they all started getting interested in what is the story behind a startup? How do you start one? If you have an idea, what do you do next? So that conversation started becoming much more prominent, and I think that's the power of an ecosystem. And just building up to what Mr. Ahmed also said earlier, that you have to communicate, you have to collaborate, and that's how kind of that synergy builds. After that, I worked on my final year project, which was also kind of a startup. It was a startup initiative, but then we all went different ways. And then after my master's, now I'm a part of another startup, which is 𝐶𝐸, and we're a fintech startup trying to revolutionize the financial inclusion system in Pakistan. And so I've been on all those sides where I've been a founder, I've been an employee, I've been a mentor for new startups. And over these past, I think 4 or 5 years, there has been like an exponential change in the startup industry, especially in terms of the number of startups, but also the overall growth and impact that startups have had. One of the main reasons is also that there has been a lot of investment flowing in finally to Pakistan. So in just 2021, we had, I think, more than 300 million, I think $370 million of investment in 2021. That was a 5-fold increase from 2020. And the reason that investments are a big factor is because they show how much startups are growing. And the more they're growing, the more impact that they're creating and the more jobs they're creating. And that means that in the coming years, and even right now, a lot of jobs would actually be coming out of startups, which are fast-paced, and you have to keep adapting to whatever the evolving, changing needs are. So I think that's one thing, a transferable skill, which you have to have when you're graduating, that you need to keep adapting to whatever is happening in your environment. And then the other thing, which is something that I've truly gained from Habib, is that you need to have that empathy for the users. So you need to not just communicate with your colleagues and your stakeholders and your external partners, but you also really need to communicate with the people you're building the product for, to understand what are their pain points. And one thing that really helps is that if you're creating local products, you know what people are facing around you. You know the challenges which are there in the society around you. So I think my Habib experience was also very much reflective of that. Within the liberal core philosophy, we have really instilled that aspect of service within us. And that's what keeps me going at 𝐶𝐸 every day as well, that I know that whatever I'm doing directly impacts my users, and that directly impacts financial inclusion in the society. So there's always that aspect of impact and service, which is the driving motivation behind everything that we do. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Harish, for sharing your wonderful journey with us. Yes, Mr. Umar is back. Farah?
Yes, Mr. Umar. So my next question from you is, with this change in how workplaces execute, the skills demanded from an employee are evolving over time given the current situation of the world. So in order to fulfill those needs, academia and other advising facilities also have to be revisited in order to prepare students to adapt more efficiently in workplaces today. So in light of this, and as a member of Industrial Advisory Board at Habib University, what are the two main strategies that universities should adopt to prepare future-ready graduates?
I think the future that we used to talk about for the last many years, I think it's already here. And in my opinion, the academia has not changed as fast as it should have to keep pace with the changing needs from the corporate world. We've all been talking about the VUCA world for the last 10, 20, 30 years now. But this COVID pandemic has changed almost everything for everyone. Literally every day, businesses, food, services, I mean, you name it. And they've all had to sort of retool, rethink, and really repurpose their very existence to address the challenges of daily survival and long-term sustainability of their businesses. I think now it's about time that university education also needs to be rethought. Most university education, in my view, still focuses on IQ. But like I said, and I've always been talking about this at a number of places, that what is really required is a focus on emotional connectivity or EQ as it's known. In my view, this is because I think emotionally intelligent students and the future workers are going to be much better equipped to deal with the VUCA world and this fast changing world, to be able to handle the negative emotions, with handling failures and the fast changing business landscape that we're in. So if I had to make two sort of suggestions as part of my advisory book role as well, and I've been talking about this at various meetings. The first and the foremost is experiential learning. I think it should be made an integral part of all curriculum. Students need to be made to learn the skills by means of experimenting rather than just merely educating them on the forms of theories and presentations, because unless they experiment, learn, make mistakes, relearn and grow, that it's not ever going to be internalized the way I think it should be. because a lot of the theories that we study and teach fail in actual corporate world, and only lessons learned through different mistakes and advancements made during experimenting phase come in handy and stay with us for life. You asked me for two. So the second one, in my opinion, students must be given access to new tools and technologies to advance their skills and knowledge, regardless of their major or the degree that they're doing. This should be purely interest-based. So for example, a finance graduate may be interested in learning about web designing, or an HR student may be inclined towards digital analytics, or engineering student in marketing. So I mean, these are the sort of things that whatever they are interested in, they must be given opportunities at universities to learn these and acquire these skills. And I think university time is the best time for young minds to absorb new information, and by doing so, they'll be able to make the best use of this knowledge once applied practically when they come into the real life problem solving situation. So I think these would be the two suggestions that I would have for every university that I would go and speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Umar. As a computer science student taking literature courses, I believe Habib is very much living to that standard. Thank you so much.
Absolutely it is.
So my next question is from Mr. Vakar. And JDS closely works with educational institutions for training and development purposes, and it also collaborates with tech and startups ecosystem to help mentor the young talent. So in your point of view, how significant are these collaborations between academia and corporate sector in preparing students for the changing needs of the market? And if you really feel that these collaborations should be taken to the next level, what that level is? And I would also like to add here, these are precisely, I'm, adding another question to it. So this is first part of it. Another is a story that I wanted, of course, the words to know that you told us in an in-person meeting about one HU graduate that you recently hired.
And during the interview session, you told him to write his own JD.
So uska bhi hame thoda background batayega. ताकि सब सुने, and Kazim, especially आप सुने if you're watching this. जी, Mr. Vakar.
So let's start with the second one first. So all my career, many people think that I have groomed a lot of young talent and contributed little to their success. Actually, I personally see it other way around. I think it's the young talent which has helped me go to the next stages in life. So all I did was possibly provide them with an enabling environment, motivated them a bit, gave them few perspective in life, and rest was done by them. And since they became successful, automatically I as a leader became successful. So it's not other way around. So if you can make your people successful, they will automatically make you successful, and you go to the next stage, and they'll keep going to the next stage. So when I interviewed, I've been thinking about starting a business excellence function, which did not exist in JBS, and in my previous life in Nokia especially, I saw how important that function becomes when you are trying to scale the organization from one stage to the other. So if you look at it, what's the one thing which is different, say in our culture compared to the top corporates in the world? And many people will give you many examples. I personally think one of the things the corporate does very well, and I'm talking about corporate, by corporate I mean the big MNCs or companies which have really grown globally. One thing which is different in them compared to us is their reliance on systems and processes first, individual brilliance later. We do it other way around. So we think individual brilliance first, forget about systems and processes. And that doesn't work in the corporate world. It works other way around. So business excellence kind of gives that skeleton to the entire corporate so that they strengthen the systems and processes in the company in such a manner that people are driven by systems and processes rather than leader all the time wanting them to stay right in front of their face to do any work. So when I got this young man in an interview, and he said, "What do I have to do?" Also, of course, I told him on a high level as to what is expected from him. But I said, if you ask me, do I have a job description? I'll say no. If you ask me, do I have a specific actions that I want you to take? And I'll again say no. And all I'll tell you is that I've given you a broad guideline. You need to come and write your own job description, because successful people, in any case, don't wait for job description, they write their own. And that's the key difference between people who have done well in life versus people who like to wait for orders to come and they execute it. And of course, they execute it well, but those are very operational people. Leaders create work, leaders go to work, leaders love to create things for the future, etc., etc. So initially he was completely confused and he didn't know what has hit him during the interview, because he thought it will be something different. But then when I explained to him, and of course, as you can understand, when someone throws you off with these kind of blanket statement, you get more nervous, because suddenly the responsibility has shifted from me to him. So I'm saying, you are responsible for your destiny, and don't think I'll help you much. I'm only there as a guide, as a facilitator, as a coach, but it's your life. You write it, you run it, you drive it. I'm just there to back you up as and when needed. And he was extremely concerned about the failure, because he thought this is not structured. And of course, he did some work in 𝐵 possibly for 1 or 2 years. But he said, this I've never heard. But once we sat down and tried to work it out, and he realized that if you want to succeed in life, you have to experience failures. You cannot succeed if you don't want to fail. And that's the fundamental for going towards the success route versus the not so successful route, if that is the right expression. So that was more or less the story of this young man, and mashallah, he's come over and he's made an impact. So he's writing his own destiny on his own, sometimes gets confused, sometimes falls, sometimes gets frustrated, but he's doing a good job. And I think one of the things, and I did mention it when I visited Habib University as well, one of the things that has helped, and I must compliment Habib University for it. I mean, look, there are courses and people have ways of teaching, but one of the things that struck to me in Habib University, which is very different to some of the other universities I've been to, is your focus on developing critical thinking. We have produced in this country generation of order takers. And I think anyone breaking away from that stereotype, to me, is doing a great job. I mean, I keep giving this example in my public talks, etc., that, look what happens in our culture. As the kid is born and he's growing up, the parents tell him, do what I'm telling you, and don't move, and don't question, and don't argue. And this is the way he learns, and then he goes to school. And he goes to school and the teacher says, do what I tell you to do. Don't think, don't over-engineer, don't develop, just follow me. The poor guy goes to a university and the teacher comes up with 1960s or 70s notes and he says, do what I'm telling you to do. Write the full stop. Hey, you missed a comma here, man. I will deduct your marks. So, and then he comes to people like me and they say, do what I am telling you to do. Don't move. So where are we developing people? Where are we developing leaders? You've got to emancipate people if you really want to develop leaders out of them. So coming back to your second point, in terms of linkages, and I think Umar alluded to it as well, I'm not a big believer of our academia, I must say. I think if I'm being blunt, they are a disappointment. Every time, and my apologies for making this statement, I think the kind of things we have to teach kids when they come to us, it should be a given. Possibly a grade 11, grade 12 kid should know these things that we have to teach when they come to the corporate sector. And the reason is that the academia doesn't believe in going out of universities. I mean, you expect the student to do internships during the course of his studies, and you don't want your teachers who are teaching them to go out in the field and understand what's happening out there, what has changed, what has evolved, what is different compared to the textbooks that they have been teaching, from maybe around the world with little reference to Pakistan. So academia must learn to come out of their comfort zone and spend time with industry, spend time with corporate sector, so that they understand what is happening. Otherwise, the way, and I've been hearing this academia industry collaboration, it's become a cliche. Everyone talks about it. And if we don't mend ways in the way academia cooperates or collaborates with industry, and simultaneously the industry reaching out to academia, then trust me, 10, 15, 20 years from now, we'll again be talking about Nara collaboration, and somebody will say Zindabad, and there will be no Zindabad, right? There will be industry academia going in two different directions. So I definitely support it to go to the next level. I personally think, and although this may sound a bit biased, academia has to take a lead. And why do I say that? Because our economy has not expanded enough to accommodate all the students which are coming out, right? So out of whatever comes out, the industry still gets what they want, right? And they think they can groom them and train them and take them to the next level. But once a student goes to a university, it is university's responsibility and obligation to train them for the real world, right? And to make sure that when they go out of the competition, where sometimes people are competing for one role and hundreds of people are applying, they are best fit to meet the requirement. So because the issue of more demand, less supply, hence academia has a serious responsibility to move out of their current ways, take academia to the next level, learn how the world has moved ahead rather than continuing to live in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Just like what I mentioned in my initial intro, in 2022, you got to build an organization for 2030 and 2040. You cannot build an organization for 2000. Just like the same way, academia cannot build and produce degrees of the 80s and the 90s and 2000, and must start to produce degrees which are relevant in 2025 and 2030. Thank you, Akshay.
Thank you, Waqar Saab, and that's absolutely a pertinent point to raise. Academia has to take a lead, and as Mr. Omar rightly pointed out about experiential learning, that is the need of the hour. And of course, as you rightly mentioned, that we have to prepare students for the jobs that haven't been created yet in the ever-evolving competitive job market. So yeah, thank you so much. And Farah.
Yes, Mr. Ayub. So when we speak about adaptability, one thing that comes to mind is how Habib University leads the way to innovation in education by focusing on continuous improvements, revisiting academic learning, and curating experiential learning for students. How crucial do you think is this role of Habib in nurturing future-ready professionals? Yes, Mr. Ayub.
Again, thanks, Farah. So my daughter did A levels from one of the city schools, and she had these days you have to have a certain number of A's to be treated nicely. So she got maths and physics and chemistry, and she decided to join Habib University in communication design. So apparently no link between her A levels grades to the field she chose. And she and we were discussing her subjects of Habib University, and I actually thought some of them were very, very nice subjects. Actually, I really want her to have that Farsi course if she agrees to, because I think everybody should understand what Allama Iqbal stands for. But So I think the course curriculum and material of Habib University is exciting. It's very exciting, and also some of the teachers, because these classes from home actually give me some visibility on what's going on. If are things being done enough? I don't know. At times I feel more can be done, because things are changing very, very quickly. Like for example, there are some things that across the globe, softwares are available for free or no cost to universities. They limit students. For example, design tools and other tools. Students should be provided these from the academia. Similarly, in most of the universities, I was lucky to actually visit Howard University once, and their labs are just out of this world. And so I think some of these things, all universities, not only Habib University, all universities have to really work on. That you have to provide the tool set to students to actually play free. They shouldn't be concerned about $4 a month subscriptions or whatever. They should be able to play free, so that they are only concentrating on thinking and not about arranging stuff for themselves. This is one area that I feel actually confines students to a certain way of thinking, because so all universities should actually allow kids to feel and do projects that actually matter. I also feel that Habib University connects really well to the outside world. Many of the projects relate to your society, which is great. And I think that also brings up that feeling of how startups work, because in Pakistan there are so many problems in supply chain, in fintech, in commute, that there are in water supply. So there are so many things that can be done. So we should be doing a lot more. We need to collaborate with the industry a lot more. How will this happen? I don't have a formula. Either practical people from the industry should teach some courses, but at least some final year project should be done with a company. I don't know, but there are some very basic level information that every student in their final year should know when they come to the office. Like for example, this is a remote work, and now since all of you study as a remote sessions, you should know how to use your calendar. There will not be managers sitting on your head asking you to give updates. You have to do these things. Plus, there is one more thing that universities have to do a lot of, is give confidence to students. This is one of my favorite quotes from Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motor Corporation, and I just love it. I keep repeating it in every session. If you think you can do it, and if you think you cannot, you are right. We need to let students feel that they can do it. So Henry Ford says that it's a function of your brain. If you think you cannot do something, you will not. Teachers have a lot of responsibility of instilling in their students that they can do that, even if they are performing bad in a course. You have to instill the confidence, meaning ho jayega. We're right here behind you. I mean, students are just so concerned about their grades that the essence of education is sucked out of that. So we need to start with a lot of confidence building, and those students who actually graduate with confidence, they do professionally very well. That's what I.
Thank you so much for answering that question and for being here and taking out your precious time. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you so much.
So Arij, you tell us about your experience of an interdisciplinary education. So when we admit potential students, this is the term that they are normally, they don't really understand it. when they join university. It's after that and they experience it, they really understand the meaning of it. आप बताएं हमारे potential student को what interdisciplinarity is and how it helped you in your journey.
Yeah. So throughout my 4 years at Habib, my favorite place was the playground. And that's where most of the projects that I did, whether they were class projects or whether they were outside of class projects, most of them got their inception there. Most of them were worked on in the playground. And one of the reasons that it's my favorite space within Habib is because it's open to students of all disciplines, of all batches. And you get your faculty over there, you get your students over there, you get everyone over there who's interested in creating something innovative. So I worked on a number of projects, and I'll talk about a couple of them. So one of them was with 𝐘𝐬𝐬𝐬𝐿, and what we did was we tried to understand one region in Karachi and their electricity billing problems. And that was a team of 5 to 6 people belonging from different majors. So we had social development and policy, we had electrical engineers, we had computer science graduates, and we had communication and design students. And what that helped us to do was that we understood the problems of the society, we understood electrical problems, we understood communication problems in terms of marketing campaigns or what is the language on a 𝐾-electric bill. And once we were able to understand what was happening in that area, we were able to come up with suggestions and ideas for 𝐾-electric to improve their billing procedures. And this is one of the most interesting projects that I've worked on at Habib, because it taught me a number of different things, including collaboration with a diverse group of people, working directly with users, working directly with management of a very leading company in Karachi. And the best thing that came out of it was that our ideas and the solutions that we proposed were not only from an engineering perspective, they were not only from a social development perspective, but they were from a very holistic perspective where we saw the problems through each and every lens. And that's what interdisciplinarity, or what we like to call it transdisciplinarity, comes in, that you think from all different perspectives. That's something that I get to apply at my work every day, because I work in the product team and we work with business, we work with technology, we work with the design teams, and then we also work with financial regulation teams. So we try to see our user problems, but also business problems from a very holistic perspective before we come up with an idea. So that's something which directly transferred from my Habib experience and my projects over there to my work life today, and how I create an impact in the people that I'm working for today. The other thing that really helps is that when you're working in diverse teams, you try to bring in all different perspectives from a person's mind as well. So you bring in perspectives from all genders, you bring in perspective from all different classes, you bring in perspectives from different experiences that people have had in their own personal lives. And that's very important, because that's also one thing that creates a huge difference in the workplace that you're working in. If your workplace is respective of your individual differences, you get to create the most value, because your users are also belonging to a wide range of different backgrounds, right? So if your team comes from different backgrounds, they're better able to create a product which is not only for one type of people, but it is for diverse type of populations. So those were the two things which stood out for me in terms of interdisciplinary and diverse experiences. I think another very important thing is the international exposure that Habib provides in different forms. So I was lucky enough to get a chance to attend the Stanford International Honors Program during the summer of 2018, which was sponsored by Habib University. But at the same time, I know that there were a number of sessions which happened remotely as well, and especially after we went into COVID and remote conferences and remote sessions became a normal thing. So we got a lot of different chances to interact with people all the way from US or from different parts of the world. And I think that's also directly transferred into my work role today, because Saudapay has an international team. We have people coming in from China, we have people coming in from the Europe, we have people coming in from Australia, and we all work remotely. So I think that adaptability and flexibility factor, especially after COVID, when Habib was the first one to adopt remote classrooms, that kind of gave us the confidence right now to work in remote teams and also have that international exposure where we are very flexible and very convenient. It's very convenient working with international teams today because I've already had that kind of exposure before. So those are things which, books don't teach you, theories don't teach you. You pick up on skills in different manners, but that's something which Habib has a unique factor to.
Wonderful. Thank you, Areej. And yes, absolutely. This holistic model of education, when we talk about engineers, they just don't become engineers, they become thoughtful engineers, So they have all the different perspectives. First, they do their homework and then go out and solve the problems. Thank you so much. My next question is from Mr. Umar. And, so there is not just one golden key holder from Habib. There are, mashallah, 3 graduates have obtained the Dollins Golden Keys. So, Mr. Omar, would you like to share your personal experience of working with Habib University students, such as, of course, Faranaz is here, and Yusra, Humayun, and more? And how do you credit Habib University for their exemplary performances at Dollins?
Thank you, Aqsa. I could answer that question in one word, but let me just give you a bit of background to that. So we at Dollins, we created this very unique internship program only because we felt that the typical internship programs that the corporate world offers generally don't actually provide that playground sort of thing which Areej just spoke about in the real life, where students who are possibly in their final year can come and sort of experiment, learn, and are able to make mistakes which they are not accountable for, really. So we came up with this internship program a few years ago, which we call our Fresh Start internship program. And on average, we get about 8,000 applicants for this every year, of which we select around 20 to 25, depending on how many projects we have for that year. And we actually give these interns real life problems and challenges and issues to resolve for the company. And while doing this, they get to work very closely with the relevant team members and managers, and even at times the leadership team within the company. I myself personally, along with my leadership teams, spend at least 2 to 3 days full time sitting with all the interns at the end of their internship, actually going through their final projects and in presentations, hearing from them, understanding how they've gone about it, and that's how we select these 5 interns, 5 top interns every year who get this golden key. And it's not just the golden key that we offer them. We also offer them an experiential program at our headquarters in Turkey, so they get to go to Turkey and spend time over there. Unfortunately, last year it could not happen, but this year we're going to start again. Where they can go and actually spend time in Turkey at our headquarters and get a lot more experience over there, in addition to the job opportunity that you just spoke about. So we've been having Habib graduates for the last 3 years now, and they're competing alongside some of the best talent from top universities of Pakistan. And like you said, we've got 3 of your interns have the golden key, one of which is Yusra, who's already working with us for more than a year. And I'm really happy to see that she recently got promoted into a very critical role in the company after only spending 1 year. So it's and like Waqar also said, so we gave her an open space when she came in. She did a brilliant job in the first job that she was at. It had nothing to do with her education. It had nothing to do with any of the experiences before coming to us. But she did a wonderful job and just showed us what Habib has to offer in terms of grooming her and developing her. Farah, who's sitting here in the session again, she's also golden key holder. And I can tell you, I can share her story with you. She came in, we offered her 2 projects, and we told her pick one. And I know that she picked the most difficult one out of those 2. She could have easily picked the easy one. She picked the one where she had no knowledge, no experience, and she knew that if she had to be successful in doing that project, she had to go out and learn a new skill altogether, which was RPA. She had never even probably heard of RPA. She went out, she Googled, she learned, she did some courses, and she delivered a fantastic project. Now again, what I'm trying to say here is that what I personally have been really impressed by the students from Habib University, as I find them to demonstrate an amazing ability to solve problems, an ability to collaborate very well with all stakeholders with diverse backgrounds and experiences, and exhibit a lot of confidence, and are willing to step out of their comfort zones with immense ease, which I don't see in any students coming from any other universities. I'm not going to name universities, but they come from some top colleges. And I don't see any of them stepping out of their comfort zones with the ease that the Habib University students are able to do. I think the main reason why this happens is because the liberal arts core that Habib has made an integral part of the curriculum, and the focus on developing a critical thinking, which Areej also and Abukar were talking about. Both of these skills open up their minds to creative problem solving and innovative research, and these are the two, in my opinion, most critical skills that students need to have as they come into the workplace. And I see Habib students actually having both these skills better than anyone else. So that's the long and short of it. I think that's what my personal experience has been. And one thing I just want to add while I'm on the subject is I'm just going to add on to what Waqar just spoke about. And I've made this offer at various industrial advisory board meetings as well at Habib. And I think one thing that most universities need to do, and maybe Habib needs to take a first step on that, is to send their teachers for internships. And I've made this offer a number of times. They need to come out during the summer breaks, come spend time with us. I'm willing to offer it. I've made many times this. I've made this offer a number of times before as well. I think the what they will learn in that time is just going to be amazing, and they'll create even better students out of Habib, and I can assure you of that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful opportunity, and it is so heartening to just hear all this feedback directly coming from you. Farah, I haven't asked you a question. So you are a golden key holder. If you can briefly share your experience with us.
Yes, thank you, Aqsa, for asking this question. It was definitely a transforming experience for me. Like Mr. Umar mentioned, like when our internship started, they took us to factory visits, and there we got to learn so many things about dolphins that I could never figure out on my own or learn from the internet. Like it was through experiential learning. And then even while I was working for my project and working with my department, the way they supported me, the way they facilitated me, the way they believed in me, I'm like really, really grateful to them. And I probably would not have applied if it wasn't for Office of Career Services. They're the ones who kept reminding everyone to just apply. And I'm really glad. And I probably would not have been the golden key holder if it was not for the way Habib taught me to think in terms of design, in terms of empathy, because I knew that the product that I was making had an impact. Like I was communicating with call center employees on a daily basis. I was sitting with them, I was working with them, like I could experience their lives and what they were going through. So I knew that what I had to do needs to be done. So I was not scared of the failure or scared of the fact that I don't know exactly what this is or what this new technology is, but I knew that I will learn it and I will solve this problem because I see what this can do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farah. Okay, so as we wrap this session up, I would now be asking the closing remarks and the messages from all of our panelists for the young students and their potential employees and the youngsters who are now going to join the job market soon. So, Mr. Waqar, starting from you, what would your message be to the young entrepreneurs, job holders, या फिर grad school में जाने के लिए, what is it that they have to keep in mind and what kind of attitude should they be focusing on?
So thank you. So I strongly believe that the youth is a lot smarter than us, a lot more enlightened than us, a lot more exposed than us. So I'm not, going to go that route, because clearly they are way better than what we were at this point in time because of many, many factors. But I think there is one thing that I would ask the youth to always remember. Look, living, and I learned this lesson the hard way, so I'm just sharing it as is. Look, shaping a career or taking it forward is like running a marathon. Don't try and do it like a 100-meter sprint. It doesn't work. You must know when to make changes, when to make moves, give yourself adequate time to be successful. And you don't become successful in anything in 3 to 6 months or a year. It takes a lot of hard work to be successful. So don't be in a rush. People grow in life and it is a journey, right? You go from distance A to distance B. Even when you're flying, you have to follow a process. And when you try and make changes only for few thousand rupees here and there, the biggest damage you are doing is not to the organization, but to yourself, because you are not giving yourself a chance to succeed. So it is in your interest to make sure that you are successful before you think of next move. And yes, you are all bright. You can do it much faster than what we were able to achieve. But for God's sake, give yourself a chance to be successful. And remember one thing, always follow success, never money. If you follow success, money will follow you. You try and do it other way around, you may make some money, but you'll forget success. Don't do that. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Arish, as a recent graduate yourself, what message would you like to give to students who are about to graduate, like myself, or students who want to step into the startup world or the corporate world, or who want to do masters? So what message would you like to give them, or what tips would you like to give them?
Yep. So a couple of things. The first one would, I think, be that you need to be adaptable. The world around you is changing very rapidly. And I think we saw how the world changed literally overnight because of COVID. But such things, will keep on coming. It's COVID today, it might be something else tomorrow. And I think we really need to be more flexible, give up that rigidity, and be open to opportunities. The other thing is that we should know our self-worth, and we should be confident about that. We should know what we're valued for, and if there is something that we want to improve, yes, be honest to yourself and work on it. But never feel, because we have this tendency to fall into that imposter syndrome and not realize how exceptional we all are. So I think it's very important to have that confidence and to know how to communicate that to the person sitting in front of you, whether that is an employer, whether that's a recruiter, or whether that's an admission panel. So you need to be able to communicate what you have done well. And one of the other things that I have left Habib with, and I literally practice it every single day, is that I'm passionate about what I do. If I'm not, I'm going to question myself that why am I doing this if I'm not passionate about it? So you always need to question that, what are you doing and why are you doing it? And try to incorporate that aspect of service in it, because if you're creating something or if you're working on something which has no value, then it's a waste of your own time and effort, because it's not doing anything for the world around you, for yourself. So always try to have that aspect of service, so that you're already putting in your effort, but it would be the best if it also helps people or your society around you. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Umar, your message to the
Thank
the
you.
upcoming graduates of Habib University who are going to join the audience.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Aksa. So first of all, I would like to agree with Bakar. I think there are no shortcuts to success. I think that's a lesson that every student coming out of any university, and particular from Habib, has to learn. There are no shortcuts. But because a lot of people ask me this question on what students need to do, so I share with them wherever I go what I have now sort of come up with my success formula, and I call them my 7 P's. 7 P's of success, and that's something I talk about everywhere I go. So for me, the first P is what Reej also just spoke about, is passion. I think working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is passion, and I think that's absolutely imperative. So no matter what you do, find your passion in there. The second P for me is perseverance. We should never give up. Good things happen when you hang in there. I think learning to lose, learning the lessons and moving on are absolutely critical. Everyone should play a sport. The only place which teaches us to lose is a sports ground. Everywhere else we go, we are competing to be the number one. The only place, every time you go onto a sports field, one team has to come out being the loser of that match. Please play a sport, and that's the way you learn perseverance. The third one is positivity. Please always bring out the best in not only in yourself, but in everyone around you too. Help people do that and be positive in whatever situation you're in. The fourth one would be proactiveness. I think being proactive is about taking responsibility for your life, not blaming everything on others or circumstances or conditions. Always choose your behavior. Please always choose your behaviors and be proactive. The next one is again patience. Again, something that Bakar spoke about. Always think and believe that the best is yet to come. Growth in the corporate world is not always a straight line. There will be ups and downs. Do not give up. Be patient, work hard, work with passion, do everything else that I just spoke about, and be patient. The sixth one is prioritize. Learn to prioritize. I mean, you can't have everything all the time. You need to learn to prioritize in life. At times, your families will be your priority. At times, your work will be your priority. I mean, so just learn to prioritize. And the last one, which to me is absolutely important, is prayers. Nothing is possible without that. Pray, tawakkal, understand the concept of tawakkal and pray. Always pray for success. And I think, in my opinion, and I'm just sharing my personal experience with you, these are my 7 P's which I share with everyone, which have made me successful. If I think of myself as a success, and I share this openly with everyone, please follow these, and I can guarantee you, inshallah, you'll all be very successful having coming out of Habib University. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's definitely no shortcut to success, and the 7 P's that you mentioned, they were extremely helpful, and I'm pretty sure they would be helpful to people watching this. Thank you, everyone. We are extremely grateful for all of you to be with us and share the evolving talent needs that graduates require in order to succeed in today's fast-changing world, and for appreciating Habib University's agility in updating their curriculum and way of learning based on the needs of today and tomorrow. We sincerely hope that students sitting at home watching this will learn from this insightful session and equip themselves with these skills and all of the tips that you guys gave them today and become leaders of tomorrow. Thank you so much for taking out your time. Thank you.
Thank you.